Animals are truly amazing, but often we humans don't give them the credit they deserve. One of their most underestimated qualities is the ability to form strong bonds with people. In our village lived a lonely and reserved girl. She was always alone, unable to find anyone to connect with. Her mother was authoritarian, almost fanatically religious, and didn't allow her daughter to leave the house. She didn't let her wear fashionable clothes, go to parties, or participate in gatherings. Nura didn't argue with her mother because she knew she would be reprimanded or punished. If she tried to argue, her mother would immediately reprimand her. And when not with a reprimand, her mother would overwhelm her with work. The work helped to push away negative thoughts and worries. There were rumors that Nyurka's mother was so authoritarian, because Nyurka herself was the result of a relationship with a man who abandoned her after getting her pregnant. This experience made her wary of all men. Nyurka avoided any romantic involvement. At the age of 18, Nyurka finally received permission to work on the farm. There were no men working there, only female cow milkers. The farm owner was an elderly, married man, according to Nyurka's mother's opinion, and he posed no threat to her daughter's purity. When Nyurka started working, she blossomed. She was a kind and sociable young woman. However, her mother saw it as a reason to punish her. "Why are you so happy coming back from work? Why don't you focus on work instead of flirting with men? You insolent girl," her mother shouted at her. "Yes, mother, where do guys even come from? You yourself saw that only women work there," Nura justified herself. "Yes, those women are all corrupted. Don't listen to them. They will tell all sorts of things about me to you. Shut your ears and don't listen. Now go chop wood for the stove," ordered the mother firmly. "I'm tired, mother," Nura tried to argue. "Here you are, arguing with your mother. And why are you tired? Go chop the wood before I make you clean the chimney too," the mother shouted at her. "After all, I already chopped wood this week," Nura said. "And now you're too lazy to dirty the stove," the mother said. In general, only a foolish person wouldn't see that Nyurka's mother was following her own mind. The mother completely suppressed her daughter's will and psyche. It seemed like the girl was afraid to show any kind of joy on her face. It was the pinnacle of obedience. There was an old horse on the farm, he was already sick. He would eat, walk, and enjoy life. Nura became friends with him. Since her mother didn't allow her to communicate with people, she didn't mind Nyurka forming a bond with the horse. Nyurka would bring treats for the old horse, especially stale bread, which he loved. While he chewed on the bread, Nyurka would stroke him and braid his mane. When she returned home, Nyurka would talk about how affectionate and intelligent the horse was. However, even in this situation, the mother couldn't find joy for her daughter. "You still tell me you're in love with him. Why do you always get attached to someone? Why can't you be an independent girl?" grumbled the mother. And then, suddenly, Nyurka fell ill. She fell sick while she was working. An ambulance was called, and without regaining consciousness, Nura was taken to the hospital. When Nyurka's mother found out that her daughter wouldn't be returning home, she felt resentful and expressed her suspicions. "I think she's pretending to rest in the hospital just to keep an eye on the doctors," Nyurka's mother grumbled. The next day, the mother visited her daughter but didn't bring anything, not even a sweet treat. "What do you think you're doing here? Have you decided to rest here and keep an eye on the doctors? That won't work. Get ready to go home," the mother shouted at Nura. "Ma'am, you're not alone here. There are sick people lying here," other patients surrounded Nyurka's mother. "Your daughter has cancer," the doctor told Nyurka's mother during the examination. "So what? Now she can't do anything at home?" Nyurka's mother asked. "Ma'am, are you in shock? I'm telling you that your daughter has stage 4 cancer. The stage is not operable, she is going to die, the doctor's mother retorted to Nyurka's mother. Well, then let's bury her, the elderly mother grumbled and went home. Until the day Nura was discharged from the hospital, her mother never visited her again. The girl was so hurt that she didn't even have time to enjoy life. And the little time fate granted her was ruined by her mother. Almost a year after being discharged from the hospital, Nura passed away. Many people gathered for the funeral, her fellow dairy worker colleagues, the girls she studied with at school. Many cried, except for the mother, who remained impassive like a stone. Enough of this whining. God gave, God took, the elderly mother grumbled. Suddenly, a loud noise filled the air, an old horse emerged in a whirlwind of dust and leaped directly into the grave, stomping on the coffin lid. The horse was large and heavy, and no one dared to stop it. It continued to jump and break the boards until unintelligible sounds were heard from the grave. The horse continued to trample the coffin, running into the burial site during the funeral. When it finally stopped, people heard crying coming from there. Upon hearing those sounds, the whole village was shaken. The cry of the child echoed through the place, leaving everyone present at the burial shocked. Where could that child have come from? The men decided to approach the horse, which continued to stomp on the coffin. They held the horse's reins and moved it away. How much longer is this going to take? Bury it quickly, Nura's mother shouted. A man jumped into the grave and retrieved a newborn baby. How could such a small child have ended up in Nura's grave? Take it back and bury it, Nura's mother yelled. An ambulance had to be called to take the elderly mother to a psychiatric hospital. The police conducted a thorough investigation and uncovered the truth. It turned out that after leaving the hospital, Nura returned to the village already pregnant, but hid her pregnancy for a long time. Nura was determined and knew she was destined to die, so she decided to have the baby. She gave birth at home and only for a brief moment was able to hold the baby in her arms. The girl's mother decided that the child would be her ruin and hid its existence. As she prepared to bury her daughter, she placed the baby alongside her in the coffin. And only the old horse, sensing that something terrible had happened to his friend, and the child she had given birth to, ran to save it. It was thanks to the horse's determination that the child could be saved. The story of horses begins in the moist and dense forests of the American continent. Around 60 million years ago, these graceful creatures began to walk. But how were they during that time? It is believed that the ancestors of horses resembled dogs, and were called eohippus. Eohippus resembled a small deer, except for the fact that they had multiple toes on each hoof. Over time, these toes fused and transformed into a single hoof. The ancestors of horses primarily fed on grass, leaves, fruits, and other plant-based foods. The smaller horses had many enemies, so nature rewarded them with strong legs, enabling them to move through swamps and escape predators. Their coloring was not always spotted, sometimes striped individuals were also found, but it did not affect their abilities. Soon, horses evolved into a more familiar appearance and became Onchit-Hayrase. Onchit-Hayrase externally resembled small ponies and stood at the same height. The hooves gradually fused, forming 3 toes. Enemies continued to hunt horses, but Onchit-Hayrase learned to run faster and jump higher, which helped them avoid extinction. The color of these creatures did not differ much within their species, but each individual had its own unique characteristics. The next stage in the development of horses was represented by hipparions. They played a significant role in the development of the structure of these graceful creatures. Externally, hipparions closely resembled gazelles, and it was during this period that horses diverged from them. Surprisingly, hipparions did not alter their hooves, maintaining 3 toes. However, now there were hooves on each of these toes, allowing them to walk on loose and hilly surfaces. As for the jaw, it started to protrude forward, which aided in the chewing of hard and dry foods. Hipparions also became more robust. Over time, they coexisted with Pliogypus as wet soils were replaced by steppes, and Pliogypus became more adaptable. Pliohippus exhibited a wide diversity of colors, laying the foundation for the development of zebras, donkeys, kulones, and tarpans. Their hooves finally underwent changes, becoming similar to those of modern horses. Horses began to cluster by species, that is, divided by colors. This is how different horse breeds were formed. Of course, before the modern horse, there were still some changes to be made to Pliogypus, but the ancestors already possessed strength, endurance, speed, and ingenuity. Thus, our journey into the past comes to an end. We have learned a great deal about these graceful and strong horses, but there is still much more to learn. I hope you have become interested in learning more about these beautiful creatures, because we should value and respect what we have today. Dear friends, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content.